Martin was on his way out, and he sees smoke coming out of Charles's house. He goes there and sees Charles burning all of Gemma's clothes. After Charles goes back inside his home, Martin picks up a diary from inside his box. That diary belongs to Gemma. After picking it up, he goes back to his home and reads it. After this, the flashbacks start. We see that Martin's dog is chasing Gemma's dog, and Martin comes at the right time and stops him. After that, Martin and Gemma walk around and they spend time together. While saying goodbye, Gemma smiles, and Martin thinks that her smile has brought back longing desires that's vanished for the past 10 years. At night, power goes out at Charles' house, and he comes to Martin's house to ask for his help. Martin excitedly follows Charles to his house to find out what is wrong and fix the issue. Gemma, Charles, and Martin all sit together, and a little chit-chat begins between them. After a while, Martin's wife also joins them, and all four of them start to drink and eat beefsteak together. Charles and Martin's wife chat together, but Martin only keeps quiet and only stares at Gemma's body. The next day, when Gemma comes to Martin's bakery, Martin talks to her and tries to make her stay a little longer. So he starts telling her about all the wonderful qualities of his bread and asks her if she wants to know how this bread was made. Gemma happily says yes. While making dough, he asks Gemma how it feels. She says it's quite amazing and relaxing. Martin says that this is his daily yoga. Gemma starts to feel hot and starts sweating. So she takes off her sweater. After that, Martin stares at her quite lustfully. Some days later, Martin meets her and asks her why she hasn't come to his bakery to buy bread. Gemma replies that she started dieting and walks past him. After going a little further, she screams. Martin, after hearing it, goes there and reaches her. Gemma tells him that she was beaten by an insect. She asks him to unbutton her shirt and to take the insect out. After taking out the insect, Martin says to Gemma that the insect is out, but he still has to suck out the poison. Gemma then said, "Hurry up and suck the poison out." Martin starts to suck the poison out. At this time, a young boy comes along whose name is Harvey. He sees them in this awkward situation and asks them, "What are you doing?" Martin explains that an insect has gotten inside her clothes and bit her, and he's just sucking out the poison. After that, we see that Gemma gets unconscious, so Martin and Harvey hurriedly pick her up and take her to the hospital. In the next scene, we see that Martin and Harvey take Gemma to the hospital in Harvey's car. After gaining her consciousness back, Gemma thanks Martin, then she takes a look at Harvey and it seems like she already likes him. While going home, Gemma places her head on Martin's shoulder in the car, and he becomes really happy because of it. The next day, Gemma comes to the market for shopping where she meets Harvey, and they both talk with each other for a while. Martin, who as usual is staring at Gemma from his bakery, tries to make assumptions about the conversation between them. He knows that Harvey only wants to take Gemma to bed, has no other feelings or intentions for her. We see that Charles tells Gemma he's going to organize a party at their house and asks her to go and buy wine for the guests. Gemma comes to the shop to buy wine, and Harvey also happens to be at that shop. Gemma and Harvey start chatting, and Harvey suggests wine to her, and Gemma buys the wine that Harvey had suggested. After buying the wine, Gemma gets in her car and drives away. Martin, who is following Gemma in his car, thought she was going home, but instead, she goes to Harvey's house. Martin sees this and starts waiting for her outside the house in his car. While waiting for Gemma, Martin gets very suspicious, thinking in his mind what they are doing inside. After saying this, Martin leaves and goes home. In the next scene, Martin sees Gemma walking towards Harvey's house, and he follows them. At Harvey's place, he spies on them and sees them being intimate with each other. Martin thinks he should talk to Gemma, and make her understand that this will not go well and that this has no future. The next day, we see that Charles is leaving because of some work in London. After Charles leaves for his journey, Gemma goes to Martin's bakery and buys 2 cakes, but accidentally forgets 1 cake at the bakery. Martin, after seeing this, takes the cake and goes to Gemma's house to deliver it to her, but as soon as he reaches there, he hears some noises outside Gemma's house. Harvey is confessing his love to Gemma, and after confession, they both start to be intimate. After some days, Charles comes back from London. At the time Gemma was going outside, Charles asks her where she's going. At this, Gemma tells him that she's going out for a jog. After changing her shoes, she goes to meet Harvey. As soon as she enters his house, she removes her coat, under which she's wearing only undergarments. She then tells Harvey that her husband is back from London, and she is only 1 hour with him. After that, she lets him have her. While being intimate, they accidentally hit a statue and break it. Gemma tells him not to panic, her husband is a carpenter, and takes the statue home with her. She'll ask her husband to fix it. Harvey's mother comes back and she's trying to find the statue all over the house. When she couldn't find it, she says to Harvey that we've sent you here to study, not to fool around. She also asks Harvey about the statue. To save himself, he lies and tells his mother that the statue had some scratches on it, so he took it to an English man named Charles, who's a carpenter, and lives in the neighborhood to fix it. After that, Harvey's mother tells him that he would be going to Paris with her. During this, Harvey receives a text from Gemma that she's going to come over to his place. Harvey at once replies that his mother is at home, so she should not come over, and he would not be able to go to London with her because his mother is taking him to Paris. Gemma, who was at the gate of Harvey's house, after reading the texts, becomes very sad and tears begin to flow from her eyes when she comes back from Harvey's house. In the next scene, we see that Harvey's mother goes to Charles' house and asks Charles that her son has brought a statue to him to fix, please give it back. At this, Charles replies that no boy has come over and given him any statue to fix. They both start arguing, and Harvey's mother, while leaving, gives him her card. At night, Charles tells Gemma that today a lady came over and was asking about a statue, and she was very furious and had said many things. Gemma, after hearing this, says to Charles that she wants to say something to him. Charles thinks for a beat and comes to the conclusion that Gemma may want to confess that she was cheating on him. He gets up and without saying anything leaves for London. In the next scene, we see Gemma crying and Martin is in the garden playing with his dog. He sees Gemma's dog and picks it up and goes to Gemma's house to give it to her. After opening the door, Gemma invites Martin inside the house and shows him a letter that was sent by Harvey's mother. In this letter, Harvey's mother has written that if they don't return the statue soon, she'll take legal action against them and file a case. After that, she asks Martin what they should say to her. Martin asks Gemma for some time to think on this. The next day, Gemma's ex Harvey, who betrayed her, comes over to Gemma's house, and she asks him why he was there. He says that he's here to ask for forgiveness for his past actions in the state. After some time, Martin sees Gemma and her ex kissing each other. After seeing this, Martin thinks about Gemma, and what type of girl is she. On the next day, Martin goes to Gemma and says he was the one that called Harvey's mother over. Gemma asks Martin, "Why did you do this?" Martin answers, "I didn't want to see you spoil your life." Gemma finds this really comforting and kisses Martin. After that, Gemma calls her husband and says that she really loves him a lot. Gemma's ex comes over to her house and meets her, and asks her to come to London with him. Martin bakes a cake for Gemma and leaves it at her house. On the other side, Charles also comes back from London, and he's getting out of his car. After a while, Charles comes running toward Martin and tells him to come to his house cause something bad has happened to his wife. In the next scene, we see Martin comes to Charles' house and sees Gemma's dead body laying on the floor of the kitchen. After a while, we see that the police are taking away the dead body. Now the question arises of who killed her. Martin asks the policemen, did Gemma die because she ate poison? But the police reply no, the cause of her death was suffocation. A piece of bread was stuck in her throat, and she couldn't breathe, resulting in her death. On the next day, everyone is shown to be attending Gemma's funeral. Martin goes to Charles and confesses he was responsible for Gemma's death because he was the one that sent her bread, but Charles replies, no, she died because of me. He came back and saw Gemma's ex, so he thought they might have been doing something intimate together, and he began fighting with Gemma's ex. Her ex said that he was responsible because she was eating the bread, and he was the one who kissed her from the back, and the bread got stuck in her throat. At some distance, we see that Harvey is standing beside Gemma's grave with some flowers in his hand, and in his mind, he's accusing himself of her death. He thinks that because he left her, she got depressed and that led to her death. After the flashback ends 6 months after this accident, Martin's son comes to him and tells him that a Russian couple has moved to their neighborhood. Martin goes out and welcomes them, as he did to Charles and Gemma, and with this, the movie ends.